Hey guys, welcome to the next VFX tutorial. If you want to be a VFX artist, of course, this is the right place. So go ahead, like this video because I know you like it. Hit the like button. Go for it. Now we're waiting. Thank you very much. And while you're at it, go and subscribe because you want to support everything that we are doing here. Anyway, let's go up. We've had some interesting tutorials over the last couple videos. 3D, Maya, Substance, being cool, huh? If you've liked something, go ahead, comment below, tell us what you like the most so far. So something that I have had to look at is baking my textures. Why would you bake your textures? Like, what does baking even mean? I mean, I said that to my son the other day. Daddy, what are you doing? I'm baking textures. It's like, are we gonna eat your textures afterwards? No. So baking textures is if you are wanting to take your project and let's say you want to share it with someone else, but they're using a different program. So then you would give it to them in a different format, maybe an FBX or an OBJ. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look in your export settings. You'll see that there's different ways to get your 3D projects across to other suites. So the other thing is that if you're wanting to sell your 3D objects online, you've got to nicely prepare it for them. I mean, you can give them the Blender file for the Blender users out there. You know, there are a lot of Blender users out there, but you could also just then give it in an OBJ or an OBJ or an FBX or any other file format, so that those who are not using Blender, you can then pack your textures into your file, especially if you are using procedural textures. So procedural textures is a generated texture by Blender, and if someone in Maya pulls it in the program, they don't talk to each other with procedural textures. So you can bake those textures to a UV map and then you can hand it over to them and it will look exactly the same. Obviously different render engine, so you got to take that into consideration. So I'm going to show you that because I spent quite a bit of time really looking into this whole baking your textures, trying to figure it out. I even sat with like the one project that I did with a screwdriver and I had different parts, and some of the baking doesn't work, but then you like sort of sit on someone's tutorial and you figure it out and you find out how it works. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you how to bake all the textures. Alright, so yeah, let's switch over. So first of all, this is my container that I've worked on. I've done a very basic shading here, just a bit of a rough paint job and some rust in the corners, but you can see everything is procedural textures. Nothing over here has a image texture that I'm using to drive any of the any of the shaders, right? So first of all, what you want to do is that you want to select your object. After you've selected your object, you are going to create a new node, an image texture. You're going to name it. Now, just from here moving forward, the textures that I'm going to bake here are my base color. So what you see here with the blue and the red, which I've driven the different areas using my ambient occlusion node. So we're going to bake that into an image, all right? And I think also you do this to maybe make the file lighter. Don't quote me on that, but there's a good chance of that. All right, so image texture, and I'm going to create a new image by clicking on this new button over here. I'm going to name it. So I'll name it container. It's important to name it because then the next person who receives your file, they'll know where to plug this texture in. You know, like when you get a PBR, photo-based render, that's exactly what we're doing. But, you know, people need to know where they need to plug it. So I'm going to put a container, which I think is going to be my common file name, and the COL is going to tell me where I want to plug it in. Now, width and height this is where it comes to the resolution of your texture. So this is a basic, like, I don't even know if this is even classified as 2K, but it's 1024 by 1024. If you want to go 2K, simple, you can take this and you can hit the star 2 and it does the math for you. Alright, I think I would classify that as 2K. Hey, we were wondering, but now we know. Or let's say you want to go straight up 4K times it by 2 there you get your 4K. So if you want to know what your 4K resolution is, you can just go and punch in 4096 by 4096. Boom, that's it. So the reason why I'm creating this node over here with the new container is because I'm going to, this is telling Blender where I'm going to plug, where I want the bake that we're about to do, the baking, the bake, where we want to store that, and that's going to be it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new panel on the side here. I'm going to use image UV editor, and then on the top here, next to my new button, I can already go. Now you can see I've already done this before, but you'll see your container color. It will be blank. No worries about that. Make sure your container is selected and make sure that this container color node is selected. The next thing is under my render properties. You'll see there is okay, first before that, your render, because baking takes long, and a way to speed it up is your render sample. Just put it on 10 there, and then your bake drop down. Now you would have found yours on combine. Would have given you a whole lot of options here, but we don't want to bake combine. Combine is going to take into effect my current light on my container. It doesn't give the person receiving your file a lot of freedom, so we want to give them as much freedom as possible. So I'm going to go and select diffused, and you can see what I've done here. Go ahead, unclick direct and indirect, because these are your direct lighting and your indirect lighting. It's going to bake currently what my texture is at the moment. I guess that's a way, if in your scene you want to get rid of your lights, I guess that's the way to do it if you don't want to adjust your lights anymore. Just thought about that. Now then, the next thing you can do is you can hit bake and your texture will begin baking. But I found every time I did this, I would just have this blank square over here. Not sure why. You can see I've got something plugged in here. Alright, if I hit shift command or control on my mix node here, you can see this is what I should be getting when I've rendered out, and it doesn't work. And what I'm about to tell you works if you want to also bake your metallic texture as well. Alright, you do exactly the same thing, but I'll show you. So the method that you can use is I'm going to use the emissions plugin over here, and I'm going to take my mix shader. Alright, by the way, if you got a color and you want the next person to use that specific color, because right now there's nothing plugged in here, so you're not going to get anything. Simple. Go to input, go to no, is it color? It's input, and it is RGB. Alright, and let's say my container, for crying out, was that blue. I just select this color picker over here, over there, the color picker, and I can select it and then plug that into there. But instead now you're going to plug it into the emissions and then you can bake. Alright, so there you go. But we're not doing that. We've got a mix shader here that I've done with my procedural textures, so I'm going to drag it straight into the emissions. Over here under my bake, I'm going to, now there's this drop down here, and you are able to select what you're wanting to bake. Alright, ambient occlusion, shadow, position, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my emissions, because that's where I've plugged my color in. Whatever I plugged in there now, it's going to bake. Now, like I said, baking does take a while, so let's bake it and then start baking, and I'm going to speed it up and I'm going to cut to it being baked. Okay, and then once it's done baking, you'll actually see the image appear over here on the new image that we created. If it looks all weird in that, oh yeah, something I forgot to mention was that you needed to make sure that your item was UV unwrapped. Alright, if I go into edit, you can see how my object is nicely UV unwrapped onto the new image that I've created. So just make sure that is the case. Right, don't forget to put your color back in again. Okay, and then I need to save this image. Don't forget to save the image, because if you don't save the image, you're going to lose it. So that's simple. Image, save as, And then of course you can create a new folder. Maybe you can call it your PBR layers, whatever you want to call it. And you can see the name that I placed when I first created the image is there. Awesome. And save it. Then I'm going to close this image, and this node that I placed here I'm going to close. I'm going to create a new image now. We're going to call it container underscore roughness. Press OK. Make sure that you're happy with your resolution. I'm going to bring mine down to 2.4 just to speed up our baking. You can leave yours at 4K if you want to. Alright, and then under my bake settings I'm going to go to roughness. Make sure my object is selected, make sure that new image node is selected, and press bake. And by the way, the process, the percentage done is here at the bottom. You can see it says texture bake. Okay, look at that. My roughness is going a lot faster. Obviously, I've brought the image resolution down. And we're done. Okay. Wow, that looks amazing. Look at that. Blank image. Why? That's actually what I should be seeing. Okay. Does that mean I need to try the same thing? Into emission. And load my image. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know what it is. But now let's bake roughness. Okay, there you go. And there you have your roughness image. Let's save it. Don't forget to save it. Container roughness is done. Alright, and don't forget to put your roughness back. By the way, something else to check out, which was not my problem, so I still don't know why, but make sure that your render engine is cycles. If you're using Eevee, just change to cycles. You can go back again afterwards, no problem, after you've rendered your images. And also if you're using your GPU, change it to CPU. Alright, so check that out. If that doesn't work, it still doesn't work for me. So, alright, and then the last thing that we're going to do, hold thumbs that my normals are going to work. So again, I need to remove this image. Also in the node, remove the image, create a new image, call it, make sure you got the normal at the end, or whatever you want to call it. And object selected, node selected. Let's go under my bake type, and I'm going to select normal, and time to bake. Okay, and there you go. My normal map is now baked. Awesome. Remember to save it. Container normal. Great. And then of course you should know how to plug all of these into your PBR texture, right? Right? You do know how to plug it in? No? Okay, alright. No problem. I'll show you. Here we go. So, alright, so I'm going to create a new image texture. You're going to plug the image texture in for your base color. Right, open that file. There's my color. Great stuff. Look at that. Just like the old. Duplicate that. I'm going to load up the roughness texture. And let's load that into the roughness texture. Yay, roughness texture. Done. Alright, and then last but not least, into my height, I'm going to load my, no, not my color, anything but the color, my normal texture. Alright, you'll probably find that most of the time what you're going to find, you might just find that one of the things that you need to do is just load up a texture coordinate and attach the UV into the vector, because your model is already UV unwrapped and you just want to make sure that that is where how your images are going to be placed. Okay, so there it is, all of that onto my texture and we're good to go. The only thing I found is that my bump textures looked a lot stronger. Seemed to be working a lot stronger than the norm. So I just had to sort of tune that down again. Anyway, anybody got an answer for that? Leave a comment below. So there it is, my textures all onto my model, and then if I want to file, export, and I can, this is where I do my FBX, or I can do my OBJ, and I can hand over my texture files. And also something else that I do not want to leave out is you can go to external data and you can pack all the resources into your Blender file, which then includes these image files, and then you can then export as FBX or as a OBJ. And there you go, there's all my procedural textures packed into my Blender file for you to post to someone else. Alright guys, see you guys next week on Do You Want to Be a VFX Artist? See you guys in the next video. Cheers.
It's all about humanity.